What is a satellite? Does anyone know? Oh, what's it? Cosmo. Is Cosmo a satellite? Do you know what Cosmo is? Yeah, Cosmo's the Russian dog that has been up there for a long time. Sorry? Airdrop? Huh? What? Okay, right. No, I'm strictly. I mean, strictly, a satellite is a well. It's You're right. Yes, those of you who are kind of like saying, like, I know what you're trying to say, Annabelle. It's a piece of technology. It goes up. There's kind of electrical signals and all that kind of stuff. But very strictly speaking, a satellite is a celestial body, which means space, right, orbiting a bigger body. Okay, so a satellite, like the moon is a satellite. Jupiter has. Can you remember how many moons Jupiter has? Is it 26? It's loads. Jupiter's got tons and tons of satellites, but it's a big planet. So it draws smaller bodies towards it. Okay, so the idea is that the smaller thing is caught in the gravity of the bigger thing. Okay, so let's have a look at this scripture. So now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I fill up in my flesh what is lacking in regard to Christ's afflictions for the sake of his body, which is the church. That's Paul writing from Colossians 1:24. And when I was younger, and I think a lot of people kind of make this kind of assumption a mistake, this reads weirdly because it sounds like what Jesus did was lacking something. So the sacrifice that Jesus made wasn't enough. That's what it reads like. Does anyone else kind of look at it on first glance? It looks a little bit like Paul's going, "Hey, there's something lacking here." But what? Sometimes I think we act a little bit like what Jesus has done is lacking. Like that's not enough. I.e., we're Christians, but actually I've got this whole other life and whatnot. Okay, but we are really good at majoring on minors, right? I want to tell you about a guy that I worked with, okay, who was really, really good at something called work avoidance. Now, there are some people who are really skilled at this. I currently work with a couple of people who are quite good at work avoidance. Hopefully, they don't watch our YouTube channel. And what they're really good at doing is a good example is we were loading up something, the van, and while we were doing that, they decided it was a perfect time to try and sort their holiday out on their phone, and so they're messing around doing this, that, and the other. But the rest of us were just hoofing all of this heavier stuff into it, and it was like, that's not really urgent, is it? No. And it's kind of the distraction is kind of there, okay? But actually, that's not what this scripture is kind of saying. Okay, sorry, this sounds like I'm going back and forth. Everything will come together in a moment. Okay, it's not about Jesus' sacrifice lacking, because it doesn't. It's all sufficient. Jesus says it is finished on the cross. There's so much that is wrapped up in. What it is I'll try and get this right. Okay, it's actually the scripture is about Christ's afflictions. This scripture isn't about Christ's afflictions lacking, it's about where Christ's afflictions are lacking in areas of our life. Okay, so Jesus' sacrifice is supposed to impact every area of our lives. Does that make sense? Yeah? Jesus died to take your sin and asks you to bear the cross with him, not his cross, our own cross. He says, take up your cross and follow me. Being a Christian is about dying to self and putting Jesus in lordship over everything. We talk about that a lot, okay? So my question is Jesus' sacrifice orbiting the areas of your life, or are the areas of your life orbiting Jesus' sacrifice? What is the bigger thing, okay? Just like the idea of a satellite being caught in orbit, the lesser orbits the greater. So have we truly given it all to Jesus? Or are there certain parts that we're like, actually, this part is bigger, Jesus needs to orbit this, right? So like earlier, we talked about like me and relationships, for example. I can't not serve Jesus by having Jesus at the center of any kind of relationship that I have. I just can't see that is submitting it to Christ. That's bringing Christ's afflictions into stuff, okay? And that's And I realized while I was doing this little talk or preparing it, that there's several areas of my life that I need to kind of go, actually, no, Christ is lacking in this area. That's a really interesting thing to think about and kind of go, okay, I need to submit stuff. Because being a Christian, or sorry, let me rephrase the question, beg your pardon. Is being owned by Christ / being a Christian / a follower of Jesus the planet or the moon in your life? Are you a satellite of Christ, or are you trying to force Christ to be a satellite in your life? Are our thoughts, our actions, our words, our interests, our relationships all submitted to him? And it's quite a challenge. So my encouragement for you tonight, because I'm done, is be the moon.